This crowd rises to its feet. Vaccaro slammed it home. Garland left wing, 3-ball. Perfect! Garland one of the lane, lob to Mobley. Pow! And Allen blocked the shot at the rim. Pow! With the left hand and a foul.
Welcome to the Chase Down Podcast, part of the Cavs Media family. I'm your host, Justin Roan. The Chase Down is presented by Fubo TV. Watch over 100 channels of live sports and TV for half the cost of cable. There's no contract and no commitment. Try it for free at FuboTV.com. The Cleveland Cavaliers lose a heartbreaker against the Miami Heat. A really tough loss in a game that really they should have had, and obviously has massive implications for the standings, or at least large implications. I guess there's 30 games left. But joining me today to discuss it is my co-host Carter Rodriguez. Carter, how you doing, buddy?
I'd be doing better if they won. It was a game that you really wanted to see. It was a measuring stick game. It was a game that, if you're writing the positive narrative for the Cavaliers season, you got dreams of the team ripping off a couple, statement wins against Miami, and then in Memphis on national TV, and then entering the easy part of their schedule with some legitimate momentum and make that push. And I don't know, I just feel like I'm feeling a little bit like a broken record on these pods after the last month, knowing what a hard month January was. Chris Fedor did a really great piece about what a trying month January was for the team and all the rationale that comes into it. But it just feels like, we get on this thing twice a week going up. I think after they get through this week, the run will come. The run's going to come, and it's not coming on schedule right now. At least the schedule we wanted to come on. This team, they just haven't been able to string consistency together. There's no way to put it. Other than that, there's no, just like that loss against Memphis, no shame in losing to a finding itself Miami team, who present a lot of interesting challenges and who had a great shooting night. But it does wear on you a little bit, just knowing what I think we feel this team can be. You're just kind of waiting for the run, and it's been a little frustrating that it hasn't come.
Yeah, I mean, you learn lessons from games like this, whether or not you win, but you need the win, right? At the end of the day, the wins really matter, and they matter for the standings. And for the Cavs, it's been a while now where we haven't seen kind of a statement signature win over a good team. And I think there's certainly positive things that you can take away from this game, and I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit later. But even if they go on a run and take care of business against some lesser teams, these are the games that matter the most, because these are the games that we're going to see once we reach the postseason, right? Like if you drop these games and you struggle to take care of business, you're going to give yourself a harder road in the playoffs. And these are the tests that you're going to see earlier in the playoffs, right? Like this very well could be a first round series. And I just think it's another one of those missed opportunities. And it's especially frustrating for me because I feel like they keep getting closer. Like, I feel like the starting lineup is really clicking. I thought it was very refreshing that in one of these big games, the Cavs got out to a very good start. That hasn't been the case often, and the new starting lineup has been working very well, including in this game. But it's just frustrating when you do have all of those things kind of starting to click, and you got guys playing better, and then you just kind of shoot yourself in the foot. Like, I honestly, the energy of this game really reminded me of the play-in game against Atlanta, where the energy is off the charts. The Cavs are playing really hard. I don't think you could knock their effort on hustle plays, defense. Like, I thought they played a really competitive game of basketball, but that energy, that kind of nervous, frenetic energy that's so disruptive to Miami and opposing teams when the Cavs do it on defense, I thought it bled into their offense a little too frequently, and they really settled for shots. It's like they wanted to hit some home runs at times and really kind of hit the momentum shots when they already had some momentum going. And really, I felt like they got away in those moments from their bread and butter plays and trusting what they do well and what got them the lead at various points in this game as well.
Yeah, I think so. And also Miami just doesn't make mistakes. It's to their credit. They really are a wonder to watch play defense. I think Bam is an elite defensive talent. But a lot of these guys just don't mess up. Like, it's not that they're so good and so athletic and so long. They just don't mess up. And there were a lot of plays where the Cavs really, really worked hard for their advantage, for a wide open corner three. And then they just missed too, like that's the other thing. Like they missed a lot of those, potential backbreakers.
They went 11 for 40 from 3, right? Like that's brutal.
And like this isn't a team that shoots 43s. Like that's not really what they do. And I thought they were getting good shots up for the most part.
40 because they were open, right?
Yeah.
Like Miami's playing a zone, and typically against a zone defense, you are going to give up more 3-pointers, especially when you move the ball as well as the Cavs. Like, I thought the Cavs actually did a pretty good job throughout the game beating the switch, right? Like having the patience against what Miami was doing when they hedge, when they trap. They played through the bigs, which is what you want to do in those spots, and it generated open threes. They didn't convert them. And the unfortunate thing for the Cavs, at least right now, is if Garland and Mitchell aren't really hitting from 3, they don't have a lot of shooting depth behind them. Dean Wade didn't have his legs in this game. Kevin Love was active for this game, but wasn't part of the rotation. I do agree with that decision by JB Bickerstaff. I don't think this is a particularly good matchup for Love, but it is a matchup where if you're talking about converting 3-pointers, in theory, healthy Kevin Love helps there, but that's not reality, right? So when Garland and Mitchell aren't really hitting from 3 and Dean's got tired legs, you're going to be at a shooting deficit. And
again, you don't hate the people who got the shots, Donnie took 13, though I think we'll talk about his shot selection later. I didn't love it. Darius took 7. Wade took 4. Rubio took 4. LeVert took 6. Like, these are the kind of guys, those are the kind of shots you want, the numbers you want to see for the most part. I'm sure someone just texted you to let you know that you should silence your phone.
Yeah.
But
just grab the old or the new iPad, I should say. Samsung pad. Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say, there's no way. I know you're not an Apple guy.
Yeah,
you're
not.
You're a green text fiend. But yeah, I mean, I liked what the Cavs did on offense for the majority of the night. I don't like what they did on offense in the fourth. And, I wonder if they did have a couple sets that I thought were interesting that yielded an advantage, and Miami just played them really well and got picks, and broke them up. And I feel this is editorializing pretty hard, but I feel like they kind of lost confidence in their sets and started playing a more reductive offensive style as the game closed. And really, I think they just should have kept running their stuff. I thought Mobley generated good looks all night when he caught the ball with advantage. It's just, I don't know. It was a really tough fourth quarter, and I just think Miami looked like a team who knew exactly what they wanted to do every possession. And I do not think Cleveland looked the same.
Yeah, they did not sustain their identity, and I think that's what separates the Cavs from a lot of these teams at the top of the Eastern Conference, right? Like, those teams know who they are, and they play a sustained style, and they don't let teams get them off of that style. And against Miami's defense, like, I thought the Cavs did a good job countering the zone, countering the traps and stuff like that. And I don't know if it's losing confidence in the offense, but like, what beating Miami's defense requires is sustained patience. Like, you have to kind of understand that you're going to beat their first action, they're going to recover. You're going to swing the ball again, they're going to recover. And the third time you move it, you might get an open look. And I think the Cavs it was almost like they were fatigued with doing the patient approach at times. And honestly, like, I think this is the perfect time to get into the shot selection of Donovan Mitchell, because this was the first time, even early in the game when the Cavs were up, where I just didn't love his shot selection in this game. I thought he was pressing a little bit too much. Honestly, it reminded me, and it was funny because we were just on the dunker spot last night, which you guys should check that out. Awesome long form conversation with Nikias and Steve.
You want 2 hours of way more fun talk than analysis of a loss. Please go check out the dunker spot. I think that was a really fun pod.
Yeah, but Mitchell's shot selection in this game reminded me of almost like the I guess we could say the fears that we had with bringing him in, where just sometimes he's going to call his own number and it's not necessarily within the flow of the game. And even though he did get the 9 assists, I just thought the shot selection at times it was almost like he wanted to rise to the moment. And it reminded me of late game against the Knicks where he called his own number a few too many times and just kind of didn't go within the flow of the offense. And it's not characteristic for him. Maybe this is part of him getting back into the mix. We haven't had a great Donovan Mitchell game in a while, but I just didn't think that his shot selection was particularly strong in this game.
Yeah, he hasn't scored 30 in his last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games, which sounds crazy to say because scoring 30 is really hard. But there are a lot of 30-point games on this season for Donnie. And I think you're right. I think this looked like a game where he had 9 assists. And I remember when we were talking to we talked that we owe Tony Jones some sort of royalty because he gave us so much content. But I remember we talked to him about Donnie's playmaking. He kind of talked about him being a guy who could make reads, but maybe won't organize your offense. And I feel like that's the way I felt about tonight. I felt like when Darius wasn't out there, the offense, and especially when Darius nor Rubio were out there, I think we might disagree a little bit on Rubio minutes tonight. I think Donovan the offense was very shapeless with him on the floor. They had to just kind of scrap and rely on shot making in those minutes, and part of that just comes to you're playing an unbelievably sophisticated defense, and I just don't think Donovan was able to consistently find good angles because of how smart they are. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I think that's the correct point where. Earlier in this season, I thought Donovan did a really good job of organizing the offense, and that's definitely been something that's dropped off, right? Like you look at the on-off splits for the offense when Darius is on and off the court, it's not good right now. Like it's the difference between a very good offense and 29th in the league. I'm sure tonight probably just kind of extended that margin right there because I do feel, and I don't know if this is a product of now Ricky's back, so Donovan knows, hey, Darius is out of the game, but we have Karras to initiate some offense, and we have maybe playing with Ricky at times as well, so I don't need to kind of act as a point guard in those moments. I would like to see more of it, even with Ricky Rubio out there, and Ricky's going to do a good job getting them into their sets. But I just think they need to sustain their offensive output with Darius off the floor. It's becoming a little more reminiscent of last year, and it's something that they've done a good job overall this season. But recent play, if you're looking at why we are now seeing games where the starters are playing really well and outscoring the opponents, and the drop off is there once we start staggering these lineups, some of that is figuring out the rotation and getting new guys in and whatnot. But I think some of it is just kind of an absence of focus and purpose on the offensive end when Darius isn't on the court.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think also I'm trying not to read too much into it because, again, the offense was perfectly fine for the first 10, 15 games of the season while Darius was working his way back. And a lot of that, I think, was a byproduct of the guys just hitting shots, on a night where I think Karras had a really rough game, despite having some small bursts of really productive play. I think the macro, I think the Heat are just a tough matchup for him because he is, they don't care about because they don't mess up. They don't really care about your off rhythm, helter skelter moves. They're just like, oh, we're just not going to jump it. We're not going to lunge. And give you an advantage. And I think it was just I'm trying to figure out how much to put on Mitchell when I think that the Heat were really shutting down the paint. I don't think he was able to create good driving angles much tonight with Darius on the bench. And it was. I don't think it was Donnie's best game. I thought he was pretty solid on the defensive end. But on offense, it just, and like the pull up just wasn't there tonight, and like it's tough. I think he got plenty of clean pull up 3 looks that I didn't hate. They just weren't going in. That final shot, man, I thought was cash. I really did think was was good.
Oh no, it didn't. It didn't look good to me. Maybe that was just pessimism in the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it was
definitely looked
perfectly
short.
aligned. It just was just a little bit short, which makes sense. He was going around 40 miles an hour the opposite direction. So, though I thought it was a pretty good dodge of any foul, because I think Miami is a classic foul up three kind of team. And he was able to dodge it. I know.
Yeah, I respect them playing. I respect them playing honest basketball and allowing for that moment, because that's the morally right thing to do in that spot. I honestly, like, this is a game, and I really do attribute it to, like, these are the types of, like, nerves and decision making that are the reason why we think that this team isn't a contender this year, because this is the type of moment, this is the type of pressure you're going to see in the playoffs. And this is something that the Cavs are going to have to learn from. Like, whether it happens this year or not, this learning to trust one another in these moments, learning to execute the offense and sustain what you do well is the most important thing. And I think they just got away from it few too many times. They settled for jumpers far too frequently. And I understand that's what the zone defense is trying to get you to do, right? It's trying to get you to settle for outside shots. And, you know, maybe you hit a couple more of those shots and the game looks differently. But if you're going through a playoff series, if you're going through a 7-game series, there is going to be games within that series where you're not hitting those outside shots. And you can say, well, you know, we got clean looks and we missed them, or they got contested looks and they made them. Like, you're going to have shooting luck one way or another in a playoff series, but you need to find ways to make up for that and to not let Miami dictate the terms of the offense for you. And I think if you did have a playoff series against Miami, I think it would go long. I think it would be a really competitive series. I thought the Cavs had a good game plan in this game. Like, I thought the rotations were good. I thought they were prepared to beat what Miami was doing defensively, and they handled those situations well. It was just, on the whole, I thought it just kind of came down to execution and forcing it at times when it wasn't necessary. When things started to go well for the Cavs, that's when they actually made the most mistakes, which to me was telling, because they responded to Miami's runs. Like, when things got bad, they kind of battened down the hatches. They dug in on defense. They made shots and got back into the game. But when they got up, that's when they settled. That's when they stopped doing what got them there. And that ultimately cost them the game.
Yeah, and I think you're spot on. I think the defense was awesome tonight. Miami had a 108 offensive rating, which is, like, not amazing. I think on a normal night that would be lower. I think Miami got some charitable calls. I think they got, they're a really great foul drawing team. And I think they kind of survived early on with that. And then they just started going ballistic from three. I mean, the Cody Martin game, hit 7 of his first 7 shots.
Caleb Martin.
Doesn't matter. I thought Gabe Vincent hurt him. Lowry hurt him in the second half with a couple painful threes. I thought they guarded the line pretty well. I think Miami had a ton of possessions where they weren't shooting until the 5-second mark. And not because they were playing it, slow playing it. I think it's because the Cavs were really forcing them into challenging problem solving. I do think, it's so funny that we spent so much time on the dunker spot last night talking with Steve about how teams are going to attack Garland. And that was Miami's late game offense. They would isolate Jimmy on the strong side. Gabe Vincent would come over and set a screen. And Garland had to show and recover. And I think mixed results. Sometimes I thought they did a really nice job gunking it up and making it hard. I think a couple times Evan messed up. I can, when Darius picked up his 5th foul, I think that is an example where Darius messed it up. But, I think that I didn't leave them spamming that action against the Cavs feeling hopeless about our ability to defend it. But I do think there's good tape for those guys to learn.
Yeah. I agree. I think it was mixed results. Like I thought Darius was really competing his ass off on defense in this game. Like maybe at times dial it back a little bit when you start to get in foul trouble. I thought some of those were ticky-tack. The Jimmy Butler corner three, I thought that was pretty clearly an offensive foul on Butler, where Darius didn't get into his space and it was a completely unnatural shooting motion. But I mean, Jimmy's going to get those calls, right? Like that's part of the deal, and I guess at some point we'll have stars that get calls like that. But it's I thought Darius, you have to be a little more cautious when you do get into foul trouble.
Dude,
right?
I thought he was reckless tonight. I thought he had 3 really stupid fouls. And like, dude, especially like read the room. Like this offense is not generating clean looks with you on the floor, or with you not on the floor. Like you can't throw your hip out at Jimmy on that hedge play. Like I know Jimmy baited it, but like it was a foul, a no doubt foul, and like you just can't do it. You got to be smarter, and you can't force yourself out of a game for as many stretches as he did tonight against a team that's playing as well as Miami played tonight.
Yeah, and I think in the past we've seen JB trust Garland when he gets in foul trouble. Like, just, hey, we need you out there on the court. We understand what the situation is, and I think you're going to manage this situation properly. And in this game, I thought pulling him in the third quarter was the right decision because he was playing reckless at times defensively, and I thought he had calmed it down for the most part throughout the fourth quarter. But then that fifth foul was a big time mistake, and that's part of why Miami was going at him, right? Because they understand, like, one wrong move, like if you're half step late on any of these pick and roll actions or everything we're running you through, we get your sixth foul and we take an essential part of the Cavs offense out of the game, right? So that was absolutely the right game plan. But and it's disappointing because I thought overall he had a very good game. Like,
I thought he was the best Cavalier tonight.
I'll go Mobley. I think Mobley was damn special. I thought Mobley did a better job on
I think you're right. I amend my answer.
Yeah, I thought Mobley was probably the best Cav on the night. I thought he did a much better job on Bam. I think Allen had just a couple plays. It's funny because I thought the mistakes Allen made were never on the first or second action. It was usually like off of a rebound or the third action within a play by Miami.
Getting beat by Bam on that offensive rebound to end the game.
Yeah,
that sucks.
Yeah. And like his stat line was good, right? Like it's a typical Jared Allen, very productive game, but that's going to be one of those kind of tests is when we're in the playoffs, because the Cavs are getting to the playoffs. Like I think there's enough signs here that they're going to turn around. It's a matter of when, and it's a matter of can they start winning some of these signature games, right?
I mean, bro, if they go 500 the rest of the season, they're going to make the playoffs.
Right. Like if they just take care of business and win all the games they're supposed to win and they don't win any of these kind of statement games, like I'm not going to feel great about that. Like I at some point you got to start winning these games. Like you need to go out there and make a statement. And I think what tonight was a test of, and like you can do everything right for 20 seconds of the shot clock. You got to bring it home. You got to end those possessions. And I thought there's just a couple times on the defensive end where that wasn't the case. But it's hard to be like, it's easy to be disappointed in this game. It's hard for me to be angry at this game because I really thought that the effort level was there. And this is just one of those examples of why the Cavs aren't quite yet at that level. But you can very, very clearly see that the talent is there. And you get a normal game from Donovan Mitchell. You get better shot making, you win. But I still think
you
that
make
there's
your
something...
free throws. That's the other thing. Come on, boys.
Yeah.
Come on, boys. 2 of 6 from the line in the fourth. It can't happen. And
it's funny because the Cavs didn't lose the fast break battle in this game straight up. But I think if you're watching the game closely, a lot of those fast break points ended up really coming from the free throw line because they fouled in those situations. So it's not labeled as a fast break point, but easy opportunities were given to Miami because of those turnovers and because of the fast break possession. So there's a lot of tape and a lot of things that you can take away from this game. And I think ultimately it's going to be productive. But at some point, you got to start stringing these wins together, right? Like that is the most important thing. And I'm still encouraged, but you're running low on games if you're talking about getting up there in the Eastern Conference and not just kind of being in this 4 or 5 matchup, because I really think 5 is the floor for the Cavs. Like I think over the course of the season, I don't think Miami's going to pass them. But this game sucks when you're talking about trying to earn the tiebreaker over them. Like, you now have 2 games in Miami and you have to split it to, have at least the tie in the tiebreaker. Winning both of them is going to be very difficult, but, this is a missed opportunity.
I would say that their floor should be, 5. But Miami's been playing great for like a month and a half now. Mm-hmm. The Cavs have not been playing great for a month and a half.
Hey, look, Carter.
The
point of being
you gotta earn it.
This mic is here. This mic is here for takes.
Yeah.
This mic is here for takes, and I might sound wrong. I might be wrong. Forget sound wrong. I might be wrong, but I think the floor is 5. I'm confident in that, and we'll see if I'm right or wrong. History tells me that I'm right.
Yeah,
because I'm a genius.
Naturally, of course you are. I think that I think that they will hold. I think that 5 is the floor too. But not to keep going back to kind of the motif from the start of this podcast, but at some point they're gonna have to prove us right, Mm-hmm. And it's just been a month. I wouldn't say a month of not proving us right, because I think we saw some of this coming. Some of these things were just some bad luck. But it's at least a couple weeks of not proving us right and not making up ground on Brooklyn should not be gaining ground on the Cavaliers without Kevin Durant.
Yeah,
I don't care what the schedule is. They should not be gaining ground, and they are right now.
Too, you look at the record in January and it might be kind of what we expected, but it's not in the games we expected, right? You think, oh, that Clippers game is going to be really hard. No, the Clippers rested everybody, right? They won some games that if you're doing the schedule game at the start of the month that I would have circled as losses, but then they lost games that they should have won. And I think they're getting close to out of the woods. Dude, when it comes to
all these losses are so freaking close, Justin. It's unbelievable. Looking at I'm going to just read off every loss in January. Denver, a true honest loss, 13 points. They just were better. Utah, lost by 2. Minnesota, lost by 8. Memphis, lost by 1. Golden State, lost by 6. New York, lost by 2. OKC, lost by 12. Oof. Forgot about how bad that ended up being. And then Miami lost by 3. Most of these are 2 to 4 point losses, and it's just man, just win a few of these, and all of a sudden the whole story of the month is different.
Yeah, and I know I've made this before, but I think that contributes to the angst, right? Because when it is a 1 possession game at the end of the game, you can look at every possession that didn't go the way it should have gone. You look at Karis LeVert giving up another heartbreaking, backbreaking 4-point play. You look at Mobley taking a corner 3 a little too early in the shot clock when they probably could have got a better possession there. I love taking shots in those moments. I love the confidence. I love that Isaac Okoro was trusted to take a shot in that moment and hit that shot to tie the game. I understand the value of that from kind of a developmental standpoint, but at the same time, just get the high quality shot. That you've been able to get at the rim when you wanted to. Miami asks so damn much of Bam, and we'll get into that in a minute. But they had the size advantage, and I thought that they could have generated better looks in those moments. And again, it comes down to, I don't know if it's a lack of familiarity just because of all the turnover or Donovan working his way back. But even before then, I think he and Darius have called their own number a few too many times late in games, and they just got to learn to trust one another and to execute their system throughout the course of the game.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's a painful one. There's just no way around it. It was a bummer to lose this one, because I think both of us really wanted it.
We both really wanted it, but you know what? I'm never bummed out by the performance of Zoom. Support for this podcast and the following message comes from Zoom. 500,000 businesses connect using Zoom, a single platform for phone, chat, workspace events, apps, and video. Zoom enables real-time collaboration for teams around the globe. Zoom, how the world connects. Carter, it's a little late, not my most tactful transition into the Zoom read, but you know what? It's true. I am never disappointed.
I think I stole your mojo. I think that's all it is. I ganked the last read, and now I own all the the creative chutzpah on this podcast. We should talk about the bench a little bit.
Okay.
I think maybe we start with Karras. Just another night where he does some good things. Like I think Steve Jones tweeted something along the lines of like, Karras possessions are a bit of an adventure because you don't really know what he's going to do, and then all of a sudden he gets an and one on Bam Adebayo and beats him in ISO. And but I thought defensively, just another rough night where another 4-point play.
1-3. You're behind him. You're behind him. Like you're not going to impact the shot. Like accept defeat in those spots, and like that's something that he's done. Lamar gives up those as well. Like you just gotta stop doing it. Like you just accept.
I thought that honestly
changed
changed the game. I really do. I thought the Cavs were up 87-83 at that point. I thought they were really getting ready to assert control, and just it was such a gut punch. And
felt that way
again. Just the feet defensively were not where they needed to be. The offense had no. And I think he also, I know you said you like JB's rotations. I think Darius's foul trouble got things a little gunked up. I think someone in the Discord said he played like 16 minutes straight at one point. So maybe he just had some tired legs. That's not really fair to ask of anyone. But again, it just feels like you see the effort. You see him trying to play his, play a hybrid of his game and what the Cavs kind of need him to be, and it's just not quite lining up right now.
Yeah, I was fine with the rotations. I was happy with the rotations within the context of the game. Obviously, the Darius foul trouble made things difficult, right? Like that meant that Donovan had to play the entire third quarter, and they got him 5 minutes of rest to start the fourth. And that 5-minute stretch to start the fourth that's where the game really felt like it was lost. I know the Karras 4-point play came a little later than that, but that's when they were up 2 and they had possession after possession where they just couldn't score. They could not hit the momentum shot. And that was a stretch where it really felt like that's where a lot of the game was lost. And again, if the Cavs fell apart when Miami went up big, right? Like if Miami punched them in the mouth and they didn't respond, that would be a more concerning thing to me than Miami punches them, they punch back, Cavs get the lead, and then they settle for jumpers and they just fail to convert, right? Like that is a much more manageable situation in my eyes. But it's something that they have to address. You have to get that killer mentality to continue to execute when you're up and not try to go for the home run play and try to get high value shots, because you have to have an understanding that Miami isn't going to give you a lot of high value shots. So when Jimmy's out of the game or Bam's out of the game and you have an opportunity to really kind of put a dent in a lead or build upon a lead that you have, that's when you really need to have a killer mentality. And the Cavs so far haven't displayed that.
No, I agree. There were some other weird choices, like when Mobley got subbed out in the fourth quarter and Okoro came and got him, and they were playing like Okoro and Karras at the 3 and the 4. Just some strange lineups. I think I don't know if Dean wasn't feeling good, but I would have given him that run there and gotten Karras a blow. I also think, I don't know, like...
I didn't mind going small there, but you're right, like giving Karras a bit of a rest.
It wasn't going well for Karras at that point, so I would have found a way to get him off the floor, I think. But again, I'm picking nits. I thought Rubio gave good minutes tonight. I thought he did help organize the offense. Like the juice still isn't there, but yeah, I'm gonna steal your thunder here, and and say your podcast notes say you thought results looked a little better than process. I don't know if I agree. Can you elaborate?
Maybe this is the Ricky Rubio experience, and it's more fun when you're up. But I thought some of those shots were a no, yes shots, right? Like the 3-pointers that he took, and I just didn't feel like the offense was terribly organized in those minutes. Maybe I got to go back and watch again. This is why I normally like to get a second watch in to understand if my gut feeling and my in the moment game notes are emotion or based on what's happening out there. But I just felt it wasn't as organized as it could have been, and I don't really have an elaboration right now because I haven't gone back and watched it, but that was just kind of my gut feeling, and I wasn't necessarily planning on jumping to that, but thank you for calling out my game notes.
I'm sorry, because I was surprised by it, because I liked his minutes. I thought those corner threes felt good. They were a little ballsy, but I wouldn't say bad, like
they were ballsy, and maybe that was just me like hoping for a high quality shot. And again, we're like, I love that Ricky has that kind of confidence, and I think overall he was a plus, right? Like I thought he was tenacious defensively. Like he blew up some actions from Miami and forced some steals and turnovers. He rebounded well. He obviously got the assists as well, but maybe it was just. Those threes didn't feel those good. Yeah, and that's absolutely fair. But the reason I brought it up is I actually think I might have closed the game with him, Donnie, and Darius. I actually wouldn't have minded that, especially since they had Mobley on Jimmy. And I don't think that they were looking to pick any scabs on the perimeter in terms of extra size. And I think. I'm actually a little surprised we haven't seen more of those three together. JB loved that in short stretches last year. And I don't know. I think maybe seeing them together, like I thought they closed really well with Ricky last year. Obviously, Ricky of last year is not the Ricky of this year just yet. But I thought it was a game where it looked like he had his legs, giving him the spacing of those two around him. And I also just can't help but wonder if some of our issues with Donnie and Darius maybe calling their own number, maybe those go away if they're moved, if they're playing with the pure point who's organizing them on the floor. Maybe not. But I don't know. I don't know why, because I'm not normally I want to see this lineup out on the floor kind of guy, but I just something in the deep recesses of my brain thought I wouldn't mind seeing Ricky close. Against this version of this Miami team. Yeah, I didn't have that sentiment. I wanted to see Okoro.
I liked Okoro out there. I don't know. Something about the offense felt it seemed like an intriguing idea.
Yeah, because you look at how Miami had success in this game, and a lot of it was Jimmy tough shot making, right? Like obviously the Caleb Martin going Jetty Osman against the Clippers experience was a little frustrating, but I was fine with a lot of those looks, but wasn't really concerned. Jimmy hit some tough shots, and he was kind of everything is bogged down. I'm going to make something happen by either making a tough shot or grifting my way to the line. But outside of that, the only other times that they were really able to generate good looks was Tyler Hero running pick and roll with Bam, right? Running a two-man action with Bam. And I thought Okoro was absolutely shutting Hero's water off for the majority of this game. Like he made things really, really difficult for him. He shot 6 of 15 for the night. I'm sure a lot of those makes came with Okoro off the court as well. And I thought having Okoro out there to disrupt Hero was the right priority in that moment. And obviously Okoro receiving the pass and stepping out of bounds, like that's another one of those unforced turnovers.
That one hurt. Forgot about that.
Yeah, like that's heartbreaking and that's frustrating as hell. But I thought he was tremendous on Hero throughout this game. And I thought having him out there to play that kind of defense, and especially with Darius in foul trouble as well, you're going to want to have someone to defend at the point of attack. I agreed with that decision, but I do think it's an interesting concept of does having Ricky out there help kind of orchestrate the offense and organize it?
Here's the thing.
I can see it at times, but on the other hand, I don't know how many more times it needs to go sideways. I mean, we always act like this season is the only season exists, and we know that there's going to be growth beyond the season. I kind of want like Darius and Donovan to go through these lumps, because if we're seeing it, I guarantee you the coaching staff is seeing it, and they're showing them the film, and I'm sure they're aware of it too, right? Like, these are very, very intelligent basketball players, and it's all about your decision making in the heat of the moment, when the pressure's on, when the game really matters, and you go to your instincts, right? And sometimes it's easier to trust yourself in those moments, and that's going to be part of the process with this team. But I kind of like having them out there to learn from those moments and to see if there is progress as the season goes along.
Yeah, to be abundantly clear, my interest in Rubio out there has very little to do with Okoro. You know, I thought Okoro was playing I thought you made basketball.
I thought you made that point clear.
And then, like, I also think it's not about like bailing Donnie and Darius out and just like taking it out of their hands, as much as like you learn from success just as much as you learn from failure, you know? Like, I wonder if Ricky out there to be that on site presence, you know, helps, like, you know, click some stuff into place for them. I think that's kind of where my brain was. Yeah, but, you know, obviously I don't have that. I wouldn't even call that like a note for JB of like a thing I didn't like, as much as I wonder how that would look if Rubio was out there. I think the last thing we got to talk about is Kevin. Listed as available tonight after missing a few games with a back issue. Did not play. Do you think that is a matchup based thing, or do you think that this might be the short term, at the least, new normal?
I think it might be the new normal, at least in the short term. And I think it's a really interesting and confusing situation. Not confusing in why we're here. Obviously, Kevin Shooting hasn't been there, and we know why that is the case, right? Like, he's playing with a broken thumb. Man, you just look at it. They went 9 deep tonight, and Dean Wade is going to get better, and he's going to get healthier. And I just don't know where the role for Kevin's going to be outside of certain matchups. And I think that that's something that's going to need to obviously be evaluated, because his contract is coming up, and the trade deadline is coming up. I think we all know what he can bring to the table when he's right and he's able to hit shots. But I mean, it's just it's a tough, tricky situation. And obviously there's going to be matchups where it's easier to play him and matchups where it's not. But if you're trying to maintain continuity, like, I don't know if you want to have someone that plays some matchups and other ones they don't. And I also don't know how you can assess whether or not he's feeling better if he's not playing, right?
Yeah, it's hard. I'd lean towards it not being a long-term thing, or even an immediate short-term thing. I wouldn't be surprised to see him get run against Memphis, especially with Steven Adams, where you can kind of park him on a non-shooting threat. But, you know, we'll see. I mean, I think in a lot of ways, if you are of the opinion that Love's going to bounce back this season, I think this really could be the best thing for him, because he can just chill till his thumb gets better. You know, like, and he doesn't have to keep trying to figure out how to shoot with a broken thumb.
And Dean needs to get in game shape, right? Like, he needs to play minutes to get into game shape so he has his legs and can execute. Like, I thought Dean's minutes, and we didn't talk about him much. Like, I thought good effort. I thought he played good defense. I was impressed by him switching on to Hero and the wings.
I'll tell you, though, it was funny. Our boy Ziggy on Twitter was like, you know, Dean has the lowest usage rate on the team. And, you know, I was thinking, man, I would like, you know, I do feel like Dean doesn't get, you know, Isaac gets all this flack for, you know, having the 2-shot attempt type games, and Dean never has those, and Dean tries to ISO. It just goes so poorly, like literally like 5 seconds after I have that thought, and I'm like, well, I guess that's why maybe his usage rate isn't so high. Not your game.
The shots were definitely flat for him tonight too. So
yeah, they was not leaving his hand well. I feel like Dean, more than any player in this team, including Jetty, who was the previous champion, I know immediately whether the shot's going in. Like, the second he rises, I don't know if it's the feet or the mechanics. I haven't gotten that close, but I know when Dean is going to have a good shooting game and when he is not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this was certainly not one of them. But I think it is pretty evident of how helpful Dean Wade can be when he's himself. And that's another kind of one of those encouraging things, because as Ricky gets better and Dean gets better, I think a lot of our concerns about second units and making the bench viable start to go away. And right now we have a team with an incredibly good starting lineup that's working really well. The starters are usually outscoring the other team in every single one of these games. And it just comes down to the one we're staggeringly trying to find consistency. And some of that's, hey, is Karis LeVert going to have an effective game, or is it going to be a bit more of an adventure? And sometimes that can vary from quarter to quarter. I think like the effort level's there. Yeah, he's getting the offensive rebounds. He's diving for balls. He had 2 blocks in this game. Wish he didn't try to go for a third on Tyler Hero, but like it has been a little bit of an adventure. But I think as they get healthier, as Donovan starts to play more like himself again, as Ricky and Dean play better, I think there's a lot of reasons to believe this is close to turning around. But again, it comes down to how quickly do you turn it around, and another 8-game winning streak would change the complexion of this season in a hurry.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just think they need to do it. It's such a nothing take out of me, but like, they haven't won. Let's see here. The last time they won 2 games in a row was
January 4th.
Yeah, January 4th and 2nd and 4th. We went an entire month without 2 wins in a row. That is not a team that, like, that trend cannot work if you are a team that is aiming for home court in the first round of this Eastern Conference. So they're gonna have to do it. And
to their credit, they haven't lost 2 games in a row very often either. I think they only did that once this month as well, right? So you only won 2 games in a row once in a month, and you only lost 2 games in a row once in a month. That's a 500 month rate there. And maybe we should have been a little smarter with planning our podcast and just podcasting every other game.
Yeah, why are we podcasting after all these L's, Justin? We're morons.
Because these are the games that matter more.
I would like the record to show that you said, let's not record after the Clippers game. Let's do Tuesday, Thursday, which is objectively the right and interesting programming decision, but it did leave us up for a bit of a bummer. So
these
on
games
you, pal.
matter more, and I had confidence in this game. And honestly, this reminds me a lot of the Knicks game, where you felt like you should have won it and you left it on the table. And you just can't do that, especially against these teams that are close to you in the standings. And they're going to have a lot of opportunities down the stretch to have statement games. Like, you have 2 games against Brooklyn, 2 games against Philly, 2 games against Boston. Like, there's going to be real moments here to have moments. And you have another one on Thursday against Memphis. Like, that's a real good opportunity
National
for this
TV
team
game.
To generate some momentum here, man. Generate some momentum on national TV, get a statement win, and then carry that into the next month. So we'll see how that goes. We'll be podcasting live after the Memphis game as well, once the broadcast wraps up. Appreciate everyone sticking with us and tuning in live after a tough loss. But
go listen to the Dunker spot. It's a good palate cleanser.
Yeah, go listen to that. A little more macro topics. And again, the thing that I always seem to find every time that we talk to anyone national that focuses on the Cavs is they're higher on the team than even we are. And it's funny. Like, people really are high on what the Cavs are doing. But big thanks of everyone that tuned in live on YouTube. If you want to support us, like and subscribe. Click notification bell so you know when we're going live. If you're listening via podcast and you want to support us, leave us a rating, leave a review, subscribe, unsubscribe, and resubscribe, and help cook those books. If you want to be part of the Chase Down's exclusive Discord chat, send a screenshot of that review to chasedownpod@gmail.com. However you choose to support us, we really do appreciate it. Make sure you guys are staying safe out there. Until next time, go Cavs.